usually in most marriages, they didn't do it according to God's divine design and his owner's manual. It's not working. And they keep trying to make minor adjustments, which doesn't work. And I guess what we're encouraging you is
foundation.
It may just be time to just go to Genesis 2:24 and just say, you know what? Let's just do, not that we get divorced, but like, let's just start over. Let's if we were to do this right, what would this look like? And then make those practical adjustments. And we had to do that because we got it wrong.
New marriage, same spouse.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of times people say is, I need a new marriage. No, I need a new spouse rather. And the answer is no, you don't need a new spouse. You need a new marriage. Mm-hmm. And you can have a new marriage with the same spouse.
Yeah. Well, hello, this is Mark and Grace Driscoll with the Real Marriage Podcast, and we are doing a series on Genesis, and this is part 3 of Adam and Eve.
We're answering the question, what are the 4 biggest causes of marital pain? And I just got a Bronco. I'll share this story.
That's painful?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay.
No. I love, the Bronco's amazing. It says in Revelation, Jesus is coming back riding a white horse. He's probably in a white Bronco, not like OJ's, but more like mine. And one of the cool things, you were driving the Bronco with me recently, is that it's got this huge screen in it. It's like it's like an iPad. And on it is the manual. We used to have to kill trees to get a manual for how to run a vehicle. And what I love about it, you can just scroll through it and it tells you exactly how everything works. And when I first got in the Bronco, I had no clue. I couldn't get the lights on. I couldn't figure anything out.
You needed the owner's manual.
I did the owner's manual. And lo and behold, if you do what the manual says, it works. It works perfect. It's amazing. So when it comes to marriage, the Bible is God's owner's manual. It's like, hey, I made marriage. I created it. I'll tell you how it works. And if you do it, the way I tell you to do it, it's actually going to work. If you don't do it that way, you're going to end up in the ditch. And so the kind of the owner's manual from God for marriage is in Genesis chapter 2. And it's Moses breaking in and commenting on marriage. And it's something that's so significant, I'll read it in a moment, that Jesus quotes it in the New Testament and Paul quotes it. So the Holy Spirit ultimately writes it through Moses. If Jesus quotes it and Paul quotes it and they keep pointing back to it, that tells you it's super, super, super important.
Deserves being repeated.
Yeah, it's very important. So Genesis 2:24, you want to read it, babe?
Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And the man and his wife were both naked and were not ashamed. Or
as I like to call it, the Texas International version, naked. They were naked without shame. So Pastor Jimmy Evans has got a great teaching on this called The 4 Laws of Love. He's got his book is outstanding, super practical and helpful. And if you want to dive deeper into this, we'd wholeheartedly recommend The 4 Laws of Love by Pastor Jimmy. But what God is saying is these are the priorities in sequence and order. And if you will follow the manual, it will work. The first is, and so conversely, these would be the 4 causes of most marital pain. If you violate any one of these laws or get them out of order, that's when marriage gets very, very painful. So the first is law of priority. Leave your mother and father. We know that this was written for us. It was written to Adam and Eve, but he couldn't have been speaking to them because they didn't have a
mother and father.
A mom or a dad or a belly button or for them doing the family tree was pretty easy. And so what this means is first and foremost, for you to start your new family, you need to change your priorities in relationship to the people and things that were in your life prior. And oftentimes what happens is before you get married, let's use one of our kids. Let's use, we won't name any, but we got 2 kids that are married, and we've got one in college, one heading into college, and one in high school. So let's take the youngest, the high school kid. What would his priorities be right now?
Doing well in high school.
Okay, so first God. So we want to be a Christian, and then he needs to be in a relationship with his his parents. He needs to honor and obey his mother and father
and siblings,
and his role and responsibility is school. So you got to get up, you got to go, you got to pay attention, and you got to graduate. So those are his priorities. For our married kids, those were their priorities until they got married, and then their priorities shifted. So for our married kids, honoring and obeying their mother and father is not the highest priority.
No.
So for our married kids, what would their relational priorities be?
It's always God first, and then their husband or wife.
Yeah. And so you and I, we got moved. And, so like with our married daughter, I was the most important man in her life until I wasn't. And I had to get repositioned. Her husband is now her highest priority. And my goal is that they would have the best friendship and marriage they possibly can. And what I can't do is look at him and say, hey, I was here first. Or, I had a good 20-some year run of being the most important man in her life. And so, when we're raising our kids, the whole goal is to raise them to be married, knowing that we are a relational priority. But once they get married, the relational priorities shift.
Yep.
And honestly, I think I'm doing better at this than I thought I was going to do. When you've got a daughter and all of a sudden she's got a husband, you've got to understand, like, my role in place has changed. And how hard is it sometimes, though, not only to leave your mother and father, but for the mother and father to let you leave?
Yeah, I think that can be harder sometimes. Codependency can always play a role in that on either side, which can be unfortunate. But I think if the parents' marriage is good, then it's not as hard to let your kids go. But if you are dependent on any of your kids for your joy and happiness, then it makes it all the more challenging to let them go. And I think there is a normal grieving process. It's not like a death grieving, but like you said, you're in a new place in their life. And so there's a bit of a grieving just because you've invested so much for so long in them, and now they're transferring into a new relationship. But it's for a good thing, as long as they are marrying a believer and planning on loving and walking with the Lord together as a couple. It's actually a very beautiful thing. So for us, it was a shift. There was some emotional challenge in it, not for bad reasons, but for good reasons. And then now there's a lot of joy in seeing them flourish as couples.
And leaving your mother and father means physically moving. It means financially figuring out your own stuff. It doesn't mean your parents can't help you get a house or get established, but you're a responsible adult. And just practically, like, you got to find your own job. You got to, wash your own car. You got to pay your own bills. You got to figure out how to do your own laundry. You got to figure out some stuff. And college is like a half step. So we've got a kid in college. And so part of the year he's at school, part of the year he's home. He's not fully financially independent. He is working. He's good with his money. But as long as he's in school, he's not fully launched. And so, college is like a half step. But the first place that causes marital pain is when the husband, the wife, and or the extended family or former friends don't agree with the priorities, the new priorities. And sometimes dysfunctional family systems will put a lot of pressure on a married couple to have the extended family set their priorities. And sometimes they'll try and control with finances or with information or access, and or they'll try and divide the married couple, trying to get one to align with them against their spouse. There becomes a lot of division that can happen. And in this as well, when you're single, your friends are a priority. You get married, your single friends are no longer in that same position. You may have some hobbies and some people you enjoy doing things with, and then you get married, priorities shift. You no longer have time and energy for that. Extended family, similarly. And so how hard is it, though, for a couple if usually it's the extended family or an unhealthy member of the extended family, maybe it's mom or dad, they keep trying to put themselves as the priority. They want to be, we need to do vacation together. We need to do holidays together. You need to run that by us. You need to get our approval. You need to consider us. You need to work around us. What does that do to a married couple when other people don't honor those boundaries and priorities?
Well, it keeps them from becoming their own family because they're always feeling pressured to be part of the family they grew up with. And it doesn't help their marriage become stronger. It pulls at one of them to stay with the extended family. And you should do everything you can to encourage the marriage to be strong, not necessarily still connected in the same way to the extended family. And so it can be very hard on the couple. The pressure can feel overwhelming at times.
And sometimes there are cultures that the way they see marriage and family isn't biblical. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, when you get married, we're adding someone to our family. It's no, we're launching you to start your own family. Yep. And so that leads to the second point, and that is the law of pursuit, that the husband is going to hold fast to his wife. In the some translations would say cleave. It's a little bit of archaic language, but what it means is actively, aggressively, intentionally pursue. Mm-hmm. And so it's like your energy and your focus is not going toward a whole bunch of relationships. Mm-hmm. It's really toward your spouse becomes where your energy goes. And if you don't allow that, so the first law sets up, I'm leaving my mother and father. I'm creating new boundaries. Mm-hmm. I'm an independent adult. I'm going to make my own decisions. If my parents are wise and godly, or my friends or extended family are wise and godly, I'll invite them in. I'll seek them for wise counsel. Absolutely. I'll have them praying for me. But if they're going to overstep their bounds, if they're going to insert themselves, if they're going to tell us what to do or try and control us through fear or finances, then we're going to have some clear boundaries with them. Mm-hmm. But the goal is that you would start a brand new family. And so maybe even use our married kids as an example. What does that mean? That they're not marrying into our family, but they're starting their own family.
Yeah, I mean, they're living independently of us. They have their relationship where they do things together. They don't have to spend every holiday or run every decision by us. They tell us information that they want us to know. We aren't going digging for information. We offer whatever help they want regularly and encourage them, but we don't ever insert ourselves when they haven't asked us to be.
Yeah, and one of the couples, they'll share more information. The other couple share less information. Mm-hmm. Different couples say, this is what we're going to share. This is where you're welcome. Mm-hmm. Like, I would never show up to their house.
Right.
If they invited us, I would go. Otherwise, I would never show up. They can show up at our house anytime they want.
We don't impose.
Yeah, try not to. Mm-hmm. And when it comes to holidays, like, here's our plan. You're welcome.
Yep.
But if you don't want to come or you want to do something else, it's your family. You make your decision. Our door is open. Our life is open. You're always welcome. But we're not offended if you don't show up. And we just even had that recently with we had Easter, and then we all got together for Easter brunch, and one of the couples that's married is like, hey, we're taking a break, heading out of town. Great.
Yep.
You're a family.
Yep.
You get to make your decisions. Go do that. We love you. God bless you. And if you change your mind, you're always welcome.
Yeah.
But what happens then is if you don't allow the couple to be a family and make their own decisions and their own traditions, what you end up doing is you end up really damaging that marriage. Mm-hmm. Because you're putting, let's say it's a child, you're putting your child between sort of their birth family and their newly married family, and they're really torn in a lose-lose. Yeah. Where they're going to suffer great pain or loss on either side.
They're trying to honor, but they don't have to obey still.
Well, yeah, really dysfunctional parents will weaponize the Bible and say, you need to obey your mother and father. It's like, yeah, the word there is for children.
Little children.
Is little children, not grown children. So like if I'm 80 and I'm telling our kids who are in their late 50s, need to obey your father, it's not talking about that.
Correct.
But where it causes a lot of pain then is you haven't as a couple defined this is what our family is and does. This is how we make our decisions. And there is a boundary, there is a line to where that's extended family, but it's not immediate family. And there's a difference between immediate family and extended family. And what this leads to as well, at some point, it leads to a lot of conflict. And it means that the holidays become very painful. The vacations become very painful. The times that you should be making memories and setting traditions as a married couple become points of pain or conflict. Because it's like the extended family is usually intruding and telling us what to do, and it makes it really dreadful.
Yeah, and it becomes worse when kids enter the picture. So
explain
making
that.
those decisions early on and what you want your marriage to look like and how you want to celebrate different, opportunities throughout the year, and how you want to communicate with family and all that is helpful to come to those decisions as a married couple so that then you can hold to that and keep that boundary. You can always loosen up a boundary, but if you start with no boundaries, it's a lot harder to put them in place. And so when kids come and you're trying to make those decisions and you don't have any boundaries, then you're pulling kids every direction that you feel like you're supposed to go with extended family, and it's exhausting. And it's not fun for the kids. It's not fun for you. It's not building your marriage. So really coming to some decisions, and you can change those from year to year if you want. You don't have to, stick to one if you feel like that wasn't helpful. But yeah, discussing those boundaries and discussing those things that build your marriage specifically.
And then that leads to the third, which is a law of partnership. He says that they'll become one.
Echad.
And that word there is really significant in the Hebrew, not to totally nerd out. It's one. It's the same word that's used in Deuteronomy 6:4, that hear us, for the Lord our God, he is one. And so the husband and the wife are to be one, kind of like the Father, Son, and Spirit are one God. You are to become one. Now, what's really weird in our day, we're seeing even Christians not being one. You'll see people that live in different cities and are still married. You'll see people that attend different churches. You'll see people that sleep in different bedrooms. You'll see people that have completely separate finances and they don't even really talk about it. And they're not really one because they haven't put everything together.
Right.
And why is it so important? But why is it also complicated and hard if you're going to be one to put it all together so you have one life?
Well, because that's what God commands. He said they shall become one flesh. And that includes where they live, their bed, their bank, their church, their schedule.
But it's hard, right? If you're selfish.
Yeah, but that's the point, is marriage is serving one another, and it gets rid of selfishness if you allow it to.
But if it's two selfish people and they're like, well, what does it mean to be one? It's not which one, it's a new one.
That's right. Take sacrifice on both parts.
How do we do our finances? How do we, do our schedule? How do we do our vacations? How do we do our holidays? Where do we go to church? And it's putting life together so that literally you are one. But what happens in our culture, oftentimes it's two selfish people. And the result is they just put together parallel lives rather than one.
Yeah. Which isn't marriage.
No. And, but let me ask you this. So to be one, it negates against independence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's okay to be strong and have strengths, but to be independent from one another is not. That's not what God says.
So I think that's 100% bullseye. Is in a marriage, being a strong personality is not a problem. It's an independent personality that is a problem. So I'll ask a question. You're free to answer honestly, and if I don't like it, we'll edit it out. So which one of us has a really strong personality?
Well, we both do.
Amen,
but yours is more evident probably to people.
Yeah. But would you say you're a strong personality? You have strong opinions. Yeah. You have strong convictions.
I don't always vocalize them to everybody, but yes, I do have strong convictions and opinions.
Yes, I would testify that you do. And for us, both of us are strong personalities with strong convictions. But that's not a problem as long as we're one and we come to agreement and we work it out together.
Yep.
if we were independent, both of us being strong personalities, I don't think we'd be married.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't think the marriage would have, we're going to have 30 years of faithful marriage this year. I don't think it would have made it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times what happens in a marriage, it's like, well, you're just too strong. No, that's not the problem. Independence.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And stubbornness.
Independence. So the first way that a marriage really gets a lot of pain, you don't really leave your mother and father. Mm-hmm. You don't really, launch as an independent adult. Mm-hmm. You have a codependent relationship or financial dependent relationship. Number two, you don't put all your energy into your spouse. Mm-hmm. Someone or something cuts in line and takes it. Number three, you're not one. You're more stubborn and more independent and more selfish. And the two of you have not figured out how to put life together. And then it culminates with what Pastor Jimmy calls the law of purity, naked without shame. And it's interesting because basically this marriage manual in Genesis 2:24 is that sex is the result. Good sex mm-hmm. is the result of getting the other things in right order. Mm-hmm. It's like ready, aim, fire. Yep. It's like you got to get it in sequence.
Yep.
Naked without shame is possible if you've left your mother and father, you're actively pursuing one another, and you're doing life together, mm-hmm. then sexual intimacy and freedom is going to occur because it's in a safe context. Mm-hmm. Explain how important that is for a woman that she knows he's left his mother and father. He's a grown man. He's pursuing me, and we are one. We're doing everything together. We're one. I can trust that he and I are not adversaries, but we're allies.
Yeah, it brings security to a woman. She knows that emotionally and relationally, she's being looked after as far as he cares about her emotions, her well-being. He actually wants to be with her. He wants to be one with her. He's pursuing his responsibilities as a man. It's key to being one flesh.
And for a man, in the priority, or she's left her mother and father. And sometimes it's very hard for a woman to emotionally draw new boundaries with her mom, because if you have a healthy relationship with your mom and you're a woman, you run everything by her, you talk and cry mm-hmm. and pray and process. Mm-hmm. And then you get your husband, he's like, hey, we need to talk, we need to pray. Mm-hmm. You can't just start with your mother. You got to start with me. We need to start, we need to have some healthy boundaries with mom. And then for the husband, if he feels like a lot of the energy is going towards someone or something other than the marriage, mm-hmm. usually it's the children, mm-hmm. then that becomes another pain point.
Yep.
And if they're not one, if she's got her stubbornness and her independence, then it makes it very hard for a man to really be sexually attracted to and desirous of his wife, because outside of the bedroom, he feels disrespected. Mm-hmm. And so disrespect outside of the bedroom affects desire in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times marriages will have they'll have a sexual problem, but the result starts outside of the bedroom and then it manifests itself in the bedroom.
Yep.
And these are God's intended order of priority. And the problem is in our culture, we've inverted it. Mm-hmm. We're like, sleep together and then live together and then maybe get married.
Yep. You do your life your way, I'll do my life my way. We'll live together and try it out, but you're not practicing being married because you're not one.
Well, in the statistics for couples who cohabitate before marriage, meaning you still have two last names, you still have two bank accounts, you still have two lives, but you're living and sleeping together. If they do get married, the divorce rates are high. Mm-hmm. The couples that have statistically the lowest divorce rates, according to Bradford Wilcox and other sociologists, are the couples who actually do it God's way. Mm-hmm. They leave their mother and father. They then, pursue marriage. They put their marriage together as one, and they don't start living and sleeping together as one until they're married.
Right.
Those have the lowest divorce rates. But in our culture, we've got it completely upside down and backwards. So what would your encouragement be to a couple that's just realized the reason we're having a lot of problems, we did all of this out of order mm-hmm. and we did it wrong. And most couples, that's the case. And we started sleeping together and we had to stop. So we had it all backwards. We didn't get it right the first time.
Acknowledge the sin. Acknowledge that you started wrong and you're doing something wrong. Acknowledge it with the Lord and seek wisdom in how to recreate, restart, reboot, and get back on track with God's order of things and repent.
So even if you've been married 10, 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, okay, we need to have a real conversation about how do we leave our mother and father?
Yeah.
Meaning they've got their family, we got our family. How do we take our energy and put it toward our marriage, not other people and things? And we love our kids and we want to raise our kids, but our marriage is our first priority. And what are the areas in our life that we're not one, that we've just kind of been stubborn and independent? We just sort of stick to our own. And, as a pastor, I see this oftentimes at church. I'll see this with even guys. It's like, hey, tell me about your wife. Oh, well, she goes to another church. It's like, okay, you guys have got a serious problem. I mean, if you can't even hold hands in the same church, like there's a serious problem.
Yes.
And then ultimately, if you're not regularly intimate, naked, without shame, healing from past trauma and pursuing new pleasures, your marriage is in a crisis spot. And so usually in most marriages, they didn't do it according to God's divine design and his owner's manual. It's not working. And they keep trying to make minor adjustments, which doesn't work. And I guess what we're encouraging you is
foundation.
It may just be time to just go to Genesis 2:24 and just say, you know what? Let's just do, not that we get divorced, but like, let's just start over. If we were to do this right, what would this look like?
Yep.
And then make those practical adjustments. And we had to do that because we got it wrong.
New marriage, same spouse.
Yeah. And that's what a lot of times people say is, I need a new marriage. No, I need a new spouse rather. And the answer is no, you don't need a new spouse. You need a new marriage. And you can have a new marriage with the same spouse.
Yep.
So let me close with this. If it's hard conversations with extended family who really don't want you to leave your mother and father, who don't want you to start your own family, who don't want you to be one, they really want you to be connected to them, who should have the conversation with each side of the family?
With their own parents. So me with my parents, you with your parents, your side of the family. Generally, I mean, if the wife has like a physically abusive family or something like that, then the man needs to protect her.
But as a general rule, what happens if like I were to go engage your family, you were to go engage mine? Like, hey guys, these are the rules. You guys are over it. Then
you look like the bully or someone who's, domineering over the wife, and you made the decision and she's maybe not on board. That would be the guess of the family.
They're a control freak. They're trying to steal, our baby from us.
Right.
So so I would go talk to my side of the family. Thankfully, I don't have to. So thank you, Mom and Dad,
we have
for being great with this.
Families, yeah.
And if there was an issue, you would go talk to your mom. Your dad's passed away, but thankfully your mom's great. And we don't have to have that conversation. But we would encourage you guys, have the conversation together and then game plan the conversation with the people you need to have it with so that you can live according to God's priorities. And what you will find is unhealthy people are going to throw a fit.
Yeah.
Unhealthy people are going to make demands. Unhealthy people are going to create a hostage situation where they get everyone else involved. But if you're saying, well, the reason we've never had this conversation or drawn these boundaries is we don't want all the drama, then what you're saying is we're going to deal with decades of pain rather than maybe days of drama.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'll pray. Father, I pray for the couples to have the conversation about maybe the ways that they didn't architect it right and they're not working according to the owner's manual of Genesis 22:24 for marriage. Pray, God, for a lot of grace in those conversations. But God, some of them are breaking bad habits. Some of them are breaking generational curses. Some of them are needing to really just start fresh because the way that their family does marriage and family, it's not healthy and it's not working. And God, we would just submit to you that that's kind of the American problem or maybe the global problem. Marriages aren't doing great. Generations are not blessed. Families are not healthy. And there's a lot of brokenness and there's a lot of crisis. And as a result, God, sometimes we can settle for less than what you would call us to. But I pray for the couples, Lord, that they would lovingly, graciously, humbly seek your best and draw the lines and start the habits and have the conversations that need to be had so that they can be obedient to you in Jesus' good name. Amen.
Amen.